All right, so next up, like I said, we're continuing on with the cosine law. But this time we're going to look at finding an angle. Now, we are going to be dealing with the same formula that we had on our last class, but it's just arranged differently. Because we are trying to find an angle, it's rearranged so that they're finding angle A. Now, all the steps that we did in our last class are the same as this one. I am still going to write out which angles and which sides I have and what I'm looking for. So I got an angle A, angle B, angle C, and of course we have side A, side B, and side C. All right. And it says here, the question is find X. Now, find X, you can see clearly that we're going to be looking here for angle B, which apparently is called X this time out. Now, the other things we have is we have the three sides. So, and that is in fact the other time that we use the cosine law. That's something we talked about in our last class, is when you're trying to find a side, you look for SAS, a side, then an angle, then a side, all together. This time, with the cosine law, when we're trying to find an angle, all we need is SSS. You just need to know all three sides. And in those situations, that's when you cannot use the sine law. It won't work. You just don't have enough information. All right, so in this case, we do have all three sides, so hence why we will be using the cosine law. Now, which side's which? Again, how we label a triangle is that angle side A is across from angle A. Side B is across from angle B, so that's a 14 there. And side C is across from angle C, that's our 22. All right, now, so we're trying to find angle B here. Now, again, this is a part of the problem that we had before with the cosine law. Is this formula right now says cosine angle A equals, well, we're looking for B. And so what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to rewrite this equation, but I'm going to switch A's and B's. That way I don't have to do all this rearranging. Well, plus we don't even have a cosine angle B in this one. So I'm going to switch A's and B's so that this formula now will work to find angle B. All right, so instead of a cosine angle A, I'm going to write cosine angle B. Instead of a B squared, because again, I'm switching A's and B's. Instead of a B squared, I'm going to write an A squared. Plus C squared, well, I ain't touching that. That doesn't mean anything to me. But then I have a minus A squared. Well, that's going to change to minus B squared. Now, in the bottom, in the original, it says 2BC. So I'm going to write 2AC, because again, I'm switching my A's and B's. All right, so now I have that cosine formula so that I can solve for angle B. Now it's the substituting part. All right, so I have cosine of angle B is equal to, and again, this is why I write out all my information, so it's easily to find here. A is 10, so I have a 10 squared, plus a C, which is 22, so I have a 22 squared, minus B squared, 14. So we're going to have a 14 squared. All right, and then the bottom, 2AC. So 2 times 10 times C, which is my 22. All right, so now it's time to simplify this. And so I'm going to do my exponents first, because again, I would do brackets with Bedmas, but there's nothing going on in the brackets. All right, so I have the cosine of angle B is equal to, well, 10 squared I know is 100. 22 squared, let's see here, I get 484. Minus 14 squared, and I end up with 196. And then, of course, I've got my bottom there, which I can figure out. It's just a bunch of multiplying going on. 2 times 10 times 22, and I get 440. All right. So it is getting simpler. That's always a key thing in math. Things start to get more complicated, you're probably going the wrong way. All right, so now I can do all this adding and subtracting on the top there. So I got cosine angle B. Let's see, 100 plus 484. Well, that's going to be 584. And then minus 196. I get 388. And again, the bottom, the denominator there is still 440. Now, this is kind of a step it is a step we've already been to before. I've got cosine angle B equals this fraction. Well, I'm just going to turn that fraction into a decimal. So I got cosine of angle B is equal to, let's see, I take 388 and I divide it by 440 and I get 0.88. All right. Now I got one more step to do to get my angle, and that I have the decimal. I want the angle. So again, this is where we're going to use, because I'm dealing with a cos ratio, cos inverse. All right, so I use that cos inverse. And once again, your calculator must be in degree mode, or it won't work. You'll press the right buttons, get the wrong answers. I had a few people do that on the last CAT, and it can't happen. And so when I do that, cos inverse of 0.88, I end up with 28. And again, going to two decimal places, 14 degrees. And there we go. So again, a lot going on there with squaring and following Vedmus. And again, switching our equation. All right, let's try another one of those. Just checking the chat, see if there's any questions. Let's see any. All right. So now we get to example number 2, where it says find angle C. So again, this formula up there is no good to me because I want angle C. So this time when I rewrite the formula, because I'm looking for angle C, I'm going to switch A's and C's. All right, so instead of cosine angle A, I'm going to have cosine angle C. I have B squared. I'm not touching that. Plus C squared. Again, I'm switching A's and C's. So that C squared is becoming an A squared. And then I have minus A squared, so it's going to be becoming a minus C squared. And then, let's see here. What do we got on the bottom? Times 2BC. It's going to be 2 times BA, because again, I'm switching A's and C's. All right, so there's my formula rewritten. This is the angle we're looking for here. And again, you can see with this example, it fits the SSS format, side, side, side. I know all the sides. All right, so, well, let's see here. I can just label them on the diagram. Across from angle A is side A, so there's A is 9. Across from angle B, that's B, side B, and of course, lastly, across from angle C would be side C. Okay, now it's just substituting into my formula and solving. So here we go. So we have the cosine of angle C. Let's see, make sure I get things in the right order here. B squared, B's 5, so I'm going to have a 5 squared. Plus an A squared, 9 squared. Minus a C squared. What do we got here? C is 8, so an 8 squared. And then, of course, in the bottom there, we got 2 times BA. 2 times 5. What was A again? 9. All right. All right. So now it's just figuring out the numerator and the denominator, and then dividing them and figuring out what our angle is. So, well, the top there, again, I got to follow Vedmus and do exponents first there. So I've got the cosine of angle C here. 5 squared. 5 times 5, I know is 25. 9 times 9, I know is 81. And 8 times 8, I know is 64. Calculator needed there. See how we're doing for the bottom here. We're in midweek. Well, 2 times 5 is 10 times 9, 90. All right. right. Well, I still got some work to do on that numerator. I still got to do the adding and subtracting there. So let's see here. The cosine of angle C. Going to have a 90 in the bottom. Right, and let's see here. 25 plus 81 minus 64. I get a 42. All right. So now I'm going to change that fraction there to a decimal. And let's see here. I get 42 divided by 90. I get 0.47. All right. So again, I have the decimal. I want the angle. I'm dealing with the cos ratio. So again, this is where I got to use that cos inverse. All right, and so my angle C is going to be, I think I did this one in the homework takeout. I could be wrong here. Let's have a look. Cos inverse 0.47. I get 61. Again, going to two decimal places, 0.97 degrees. So there we go. So again, that is our cosine law. When you're trying to find an angle, you have to know all three sides. That's the situation we're looking for here. Again, I labeled my sides. This time, in both examples, I had to come up with a new formula. The original wasn't going to work because I wasn't finding angle A. I found angle B, I found angle C, and of course, it's a lot easier when you can find angle A because then you don't have to rearrange that formula. But then substituting in, you got to figure out the numerator, figure out the denominator, again, following Bedmas. Okay, and then if we end up with a fraction, which turns to a decimal, and then we can use our cos inverse to get our angle.